The Great March of Return, a series of protests that began in Gaza on March 30th, 2018, has become a symbol of resistance, defiance, and the unquestioning demand for justice among the Palestinian people. Its origin is from the historical events, and it is fueled by worldwide challenges. This movement has attracted global attention, shedding light on the challenges of Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip. I will explain the origins, motivations, and impact of the March of Return. It is authenticated from multiple trustworthy sources, including Al Jazeera, the United Nations, UNRWA, and Amnesty International. A Facebook post by Ahmed Abu Artema, a Palestinian journalist and poet, inspired a massive protest movement in January 2018. He called to Palestinian refugees to gather peacefully near the border with Gaza and Israel and demand the right to return to their homes. This led to weekly Friday demonstrations, later known as the Great March of Return. The roots of the March of Return can be traced back to the Nakba, or the catastrophe, of 1948, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced from their homes following the establishment of the State of Israel. This globally recognized injustice has been a constant wound for the Palestinian people, motivating them to continue to fight for the right to return to their ancestral lands. The protests in the March of Return seek to draw attention to the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, caused by a blockade that has restricted the transportation of goods, services, and people, leading to widespread poverty and limited access to essential services. Gaza relies on foreign aid, such as food, drinkable water, medical equipment, and everyday necessities from the outside world. The marches also demand recognition of the right for return for Palestinian refugees who were displaced by the Israeli illegal settlements. On May 14th, a significant and tragic incident occurred. Approximately 50,000 Palestinians protested along the Gaza border, resulting in a devastating outcome. By the end of the day, over 60 Gazans had lost their lives and thousands were left injured. Amidst the protest, some individuals resorted to violent actions, attempting to break into Israel and using various weapons against IDF soldiers and outposts. In response, IDF soldiers used tear gas and, in certain instances, live ammunition. As a result, 214 Palestinians lost their lives, among them 46 children and over 36,100 individuals, including nearly 8,800 children were injured. Shockingly, more than the 8,000 of those injured were struck by live ammunition, making up one-fifth of the total injuries and deaths. During the protests, the people engaged in chants and large crowd movement toward the separation fence between the Gaza Strip and Israel. Israeli security forces responded by using tear gas and live sniper fire. There are multiple reports where the IDF were known to target innocent and non-combatant civilians. The IDF fired at journalists, medical aid workers, and civilians. By the end of the 6 weeks of protesting, 200 civilians had been killed and more than 35,000 people had been injured. As a result, in mid-May, following tensions along the border, a significant number of mortars and rockets were launched from Gaza into southern Israel by Hamas and Islamic Jihad. On May 28th, more than 100 of these weapons were fired into Israel. More than 90 Israelis were killed and hundreds injured in the three operations. Most of them were members of the Israeli army. A year after the march, Al Jazeera was able to document all of the deaths and injuries to the Palestinians. There were over 266 people killed, including over 50 children, 6 women, and multiple elderly men. 30,398 people were wounded, including 16,027 people who were hospitalized. Of those were 3,175 children and 1,008 women. There were over 6,857 live bullets fired and 844 rubber-coated or steel bullets fired. Over 2,441 tear gas canisters were fired. There were over 1,503 documented head and neck wounds, 732 chest and back wounds, 624 stomach and pelvis wounds, 2,232 upper extremity wounds, 7,731 lower extremity wounds. More so, there were 14 upper body amputation cases and at least 122 lower body amputation cases. There were over 3 doctors killed and 665 wounded. Of the killed doctors, their names were Musa Abu Husaynin, Razan Najjar, and Abdullah al-Qatati. Over 112 ambulances were damaged. 2 journalists were killed. Their names are Yasir Murtaja and Ahmed Abu Hussein, and over 347 were wounded. As documented by the United Nations and humanitarian organizations like UNRWA, the March of Return has come at a significant human life cost. Thousands of Palestinians, including children, have been injured during the protests, often facing life-threatening injuries. The physical and psychological damage experienced by these individuals is a witness to the urgent need for a peaceful solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The March of Return stands as a witness to this Palestinian people who, despite facing heartbreaking challenges, continue to stand up for their right with determination and courage. The global society, guided by principles of justice and human rights, must answer their call and work towards a solution that promises a better future, safeness, and a fair-minded solution for all those living in the country. Only through true understanding of what's really going on will the people ever be given a reasonable resolution. There is no room for biases in this issue. We must look at both sides, and after a fair judgment, we can assemble a long lasting solution for the Palestinian Israeli people and for the rest of the world so we can all live in peace.